Hi there, Blaze here, and welcome in the part 2 of Health System with Hitboxes and Hurtboxes tutorial video. In the last video we created Health component, and now we want to create Hitboxes and Hurtboxes. So let's begin. Okay, so let's create a new component, script, and let's call it Hitbox. And another one, let's call it Hurtbox. Let's open both of them. We need to change the extents to the Area2D and remove these functions also. What's the difference between hitboxes and hurtboxes? Hitboxes is the area which will cause the hurtbox to take a damage. So hurtbox is the area where if you put the hitbox, the hurtbox will get the damage. So for example, here's the gameplay scene and we have a player and the enemies. I will put hurtboxes to the enemies and the hitbox to the player. And then the player cannot be destroyed because it doesn't have the hurtbox, but the enemies can be destroyed because they will have a hurtbox, but they will deal no damage to the player because they will have no hitboxes. And of course, the player will not have the hurtbox. This is corresponding in some way. Let's create the hitbox. It's probably easier. Let's name this class as a hitbox. Let's create a new variable and let's export it. This will be called damage of the type int, and this will identify how many damage is given by this hitbox. Let's start with the default as 1. And the same way as in the health, I want to create this as a property, and this property will be connected to the functions. And the functions will be set damage and get damage. Let's implement these functions. Of course, get damage is easier to implement, so let's implement it first. But in this component, damage is also really easy. We just need to assign the value to the damage. And that's all when it comes to the hitbox. Let's move to the hurtbox for now. Let's set the class name, and this will be the hurtbox. And the hurtbox will emit the signal anytime when the damage is taken. So let's call this signal receive damage, and let's specify how much damage is received. And one more thing I need to set before we get to the functions is the health variable, which will represent the health component. So if you use the hurtbox, that means that you need to also implement health somewhere in the node, because hurtbox need the health to just give the damage. You need to have some health to deal the damage. You cannot just have a hurtbox and don't have a health, because this hurtbox will do nothing. So we need to have a health of type health we created earlier, and I want to export this because I want to async this manually. Of course, we can access the health with this statement of with get node, but probably I don't know the exact path of the health because some nodes can have different structures than the others. This is because I want to use the export here. I will show you later why this is a good idea and how to use it. And I need a function called on area enter, and as a parameter we want to have our hitbox. This will of course return nothing, and what I want to do is check if the hitbox is really hitbox. This is because on area enter can be used with Area2D objects. So if something entered this area, we are not sure that this is a hitbox type. This can be just an Area2D, but we want to use only hitboxes, so I need to check if this hitbox is really hitbox. And we can do this with this if statement. So now we will call the health and we will get an image. So we need to modify the health variable by writing minus equal the hitbox and the damage variable. And this is why we specify the damage variable here in the hitbox. And I also want to emit the signal so other nodes will be able to know that object receives some damage. And damage is just a damage variable from the hitbox. And that's all, but we don't have this function connected to any of signals, and we cannot do this manually because we don't use this hurtbox anywhere as the predefined scene, because if you go to the enemy and add the hurtbox, you can set the hurtbox area entered here, but you will need to do this manually to every object where you use the hurtbox. This is not really useful because we implement components to make our lives easier. So I will connect this signal by the code, and we will do this in the ready function. And this is not a difficult task at all. You just need to type the connect, get the name of the signal you want to connect, and the hints are showed here. The first one is the area entered, and this is the one we are looking for, and we need to bind this to the onAreaEntered function. So just type onAreaEntered and we call the parentheses. Let's save this and let's set up these hurtboxes and hitboxes. Let's go to the enemy. I have created the hurtbox. This icon show you that we need to create a collider here in the hurtbox. So let's add a child node, collision shape. I will copy the collision shape from here and paste it here. Okay, let's save the enemy and let's go to the player and let's create the hitbox. We also need to create a collision shape inside it. We can also copy this and pass it here. Okay, it's done. One more important thing are collision layers. Let's go to the collision object 2D and let's extend the collision. We have a layer and the mask. With hitboxes, I want to use only the layers. Mask will not be used, so let's uncheck this mask. And how to use layers? Layer 1 means that this hitbox will be recognized on the layer 1. This is a little bit tricky, so pay attention. We'll move to the enemy, and here in the hardbox, I don't want to use layers because this hardbox use only masks. If our hardbox will have a mask set to the layer 1, and if our player will have a layer set to the 1, that means that this player can deal damage to our enemy. But if I change the layer from 1 to 2 in our player, the player cannot be able to deal damage to the enemy because mask is not set to 2. But here in the hardboxes, we can set multiple masks. Of course, you can set multiple layers here in hitboxes also. But let's back to the hardbox. If you select masks 1, 2, and 3, that means that this will take the damage from any hitboxes placed on layer 1, 2, or 3. So if you set the player to the layer 2, it will deal damage to the enemy because the enemy has the mask 2. If now you will change the player to layer 3, it will also deal damage because we have mask 3 checked here. But if we move to the 4th layer, it will not deal damage to this enemy because enemy don't have mask 4 set here. But another thing, if you now don't uncheck this 4th layer, but added 1st layer to the player, it will also deal damage to the enemy because mask 1 is checked. A little bit tricky, you will probably need a while to understand this. This is useful if you have many types of colliders on the scene, but this is the simple tutorial, so let's set the layer and the mask for 1. Let's save all this. And what we now want to do is to kill our enemy if the health is 0. So let's create a script to the enemy. Let's call it enemy, create. We can remove the entire script from here. Let's go to the health, and here in the node signals, move to the health depleted, click on connect, and connect it to the enemy, and the method name can be default. Let's click connect, and now new function is created. This function is connected to the signal health depleted, and this signal health depleted is sent by the health when the health hits 0. And now we can implement logic. I just want to remove this enemy from scene, so let's go with Q3. Let's save this and move to the enemy where you have our hardbox, and here we have our health. Let's assign this to health. This health node will be used with hardbox. And why this is cool to have exports here? Because if you will have an enemy that will have different parts of body, for example, the boss which will have the head and 2 arms, you will be able to have many health nodes in this enemy, many hardboxes, and any of these hardboxes will be connected to the another health. And also, if you will change the name of this health or the location of the health inside this tree, you will not lose this reference here. Let's save the entire scene and let's run the project. Now, if you go to the enemy will be killed, but as you can see, I need to hit them 3 times. This is because if you go to the enemy, you will see the health node that this enemy has a health 3. Let's move this to the 1, so I will be able to kill them with just 1 hit. And now if you play the scene and hit the enemies, they will die by just 1 hit. Okay, so that's probably all in this video. I hope you will better understand the hitboxes, hardboxes, and you will be able to create your own health system. See you soon in another video. Bye!